What's up, family? Before we get started, I want to wish everybody a happy Merry Christmas. Stay blessed, spread that peace, love, and positivity. Spend time with your loved ones because, look, man, you only live once. And I just wanted to put that out there before we actually start the video. So, look, man, comment down below Merry Christmas if you guys got the message. Now, let's get straight into the video. Check it out.
Congressman Kevin Kiley, he is sounding the alarm in his home state, saying under Governor Gavin Newsom's leadership, it has become the, quote, fraud capital of America.
And we have team coverage. Our national correspondent, Alana Austin, is on Capitol Hill with more on the investigations into Tim Walz. But we start with correspondent Heather Myers, who has more on what is going on in California. A rainy day out there on the West Coast. Heather, what can you tell us?
Well, good afternoon to you, Katrina and Andrew. This latest report was issued by the state auditor, and that's a nonpartisan position. That state auditor now puts 8 state agencies on a high-risk list of agencies to watch out for things like fraud and mismanagement as well as waste. Here's a look at that 92-page report. Newly added to the high-risk list is California's food stamp program. If the state doesn't get the improper payments under control, it could cost an extra $2.5 billion. Also on there is the Department of Finance, which was tasked with giving out COVID relief funds. Critics say $32 billion of that was taken by fraudsters. Then there are infrastructure issues like California's deteriorating dams and also the high-speed train that's already cost taxpayers $18 billion without a single section of track complete. Other reports cite $24 billion spent on the homeless issue that critics claim the state lost track of. More recently, there's a report that says California cell phone users paid a surcharge for years to upgrade the state's 911 system. Here's Congressman Kevin Kiley talking about what happened to that plan.
That after spending $650 million on that system, the state is totally scrapping it and starting over, completely wasting the money because the technology doesn't work. Mind you, we are very close to Silicon Valley in Sacramento, and yet the government can't figure out how to make basic technology perform.
All right, y'all. So I need everybody to lock in for a second because what I'm about to say ain't just political commentary, it's common sense. It's real and it affects every single one of us. California, Californians, yes, California, the same state that brags about being progressive and innovative and the model for the rest of the country, quote unquote, right? Is out here looking like the fraud capital of America. And I ain't saying that for shock value. That's coming straight from one of you guys saw it, their own congressman, Kevin Kiley, and more importantly, from a nonpartisan audit that just exposed billions, yes, billions, you guys heard it, in waste, fraud, and mismanagement across the state government. Like, bruh, this ain't no conspiracy theory. This is real because you got state agencies out here bleeding taxpayer money like it's a Netflix subscription. And nobody's checking it. Nobody's stopping it. Nobody's held accountable. Meanwhile, your roads are trash, your rent sky high, and your community is falling apart. And let me break this down step by step. So even if you ain't into politics or never read a government report in your life, you're going to feel me on this because let's just start with the food stamp program, right? And I want to share my screen now because I find this mind boggling, right? And as you guys see from ABC 10, it says California social services potentially face billions in new costs due to federal SNAP policy changes, right? And it says California social service agency faces potential billions in new costs due to federal SNAP policy changes, risking 2.5 billion in funding loss. And as it reads, California, USA, California's social services agency could be on the hook for billions of dollars in new costs under federal changes due to the nation's food assistance program in the one big beautiful bill, prompting the state auditor to label the department a high-risk agency. In the report, the California state auditor highlighted that the California Department of Social Services could lose $2.5 billion in federal funding under a new federal policy for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, as we know as SNAP, which was changed under the One Big Beautiful Bill and shifts portions of funding from the federal government to the states. A few key cost shifts from the federal government to the state will need to be adjusted in the coming years. Starting in the next fiscal year, the administrative costs originally split 50-50 between the state and federal partners will shift to the state covering 75% of the costs. This would increase California's share by hundreds of millions, according to the report. The most significant change, according to the auditor from the OBBB, will be a tightening of the U.S. Department of Agriculture's payment error rate. And according to USDA, the payment error rate measures the accuracy with which a state agency determined SNAP eligibility and benefit amounts for participants. Errors include both overpayments, when households receive more benefits than they are entitled to, and underpayments, when households receive less than they are entitled to. So by October 2027, states will be required to pay a percentage of the benefits on a sliding scale if their payment error rate exceeds 6%. Since the start of the Trump administration, USDA's Food and Nutrition Service has been aggressively working to help states lower their error rates, and we expect all states to step up their accountability and integrity measures, said FNS Administrator James C. Miller in a statement. So, if you want to, and FNS stands for Food and Nutrition Service. So, CalFresh, that is the food stamp program known in California. Now, imagine you go to a restaurant, right? Because I'm gonna break this down in from a C student perspective or a childlike perspective. And every time you eat at this restaurant, they either forget your order, mess up your bill, or straight up charge your card double. And you complain, and they say, "My bad," and they do it again every single time. That's CalFresh, California's SNAP program. They are making so many payment errors, this article is saying, that it could cost the state 2.5 billion in federal funding. And that's not just oops money, right? Like oops, my bad, I did wrong. No. That's money that could go towards schools, fixing roads, or putting a roof over someone's head. And why? Because they can't do basic accounting. They out here giving benefits to folks who don't qualify or who don't even live in the state no more. Like, how you mess up something so simple when y'all in the same state as Silicon Valley? That's like being next to NASA, right? And not knowing how to fly a paper airplane. Just make it make sense. So let me break this down even further. Because a food stamp program is supposed to be simple. Verify income, verify residency, approve or deny. That's it. This ain't rocket science. And obviously the occupants in your home and how many dependents you got, et cetera, et cetera. But you ain't building a spaceship. You just checking if somebody qualifies for help. It's not a lifeline, it's help. It's not a lifestyle. It is temporary help until you get on your feet for those who are in need, who are trying their best to make ends meet. But California turned this into a full-blown circus act. You got people who make double this income limit still getting benefits. You got folks who left the states months ago still getting reloaded EBT cards like it's passive income. Meanwhile, the people who actually need help, they got to sit on hold for 3 hours just to speak to someone who doesn't know what's going on, and it's upside down. And what makes it disrespectful is they ain't even embarrassed about it. The state itself is not embarrassed. Like, if this was your job and you messed up $2.5 billion worth of payroll, you'll be fired, sued, and maybe even in jail. But in California government, you just get prompted or moved to another department. It's a joke, family. It's a joke, right? And then you got the unemployment fraud, right? The unemployment fraud, I'm talking 32 billion. But don't take my word for it, because I want to show you guys another clip of this matter. Check it out.
Auditor, the nonpartisan official auditor for the state, has just released a report that updates its assessment of the state's high-risk agencies. And the contents of this report are truly stunning. Not really that stunning, actually, for those of us who have experienced the California state government at work, but even given our very low expectations, what the auditor has just reported is truly troubling. And this comes, by the way, as our state's governor, Gavin Newsom, has recently boasted that California is the original Doge. Newsom held out California government as a model of, quote, efficient, responsive, and accountable government. So in this new report, which is issued annually, the auditor identifies high-risk state agencies. What does that mean? It means they pose a substantial risk of serious detriment to the state or its residents. To be considered high risk, an agency must not only exhibit serious waste, fraud, abuse, or mismanagement, but must also have failed to take adequate corrective action. So in this new report, the auditor has identified 8 separate California agencies as high risk. 4 of those 8 have joined the club, this dubious distinction, during the Newsom administration, including the newly added this year Department of Social Services. Among the findings as to why these various agencies are considered high risk are that massive payment errors in our CalFresh program could now cost the state $2.5 billion in federal funds. With Medi-Cal eligibility, ongoing problems in determining who's eligible, continuing to make payments, say to people who don't meet the income threshold or who have left the state entirely, is also putting billions of dollars at risk. Continued fraud and overpayment with our uninsurance benefits, or rather the unemployment benefit, insurance benefits, are costing the state, continue to cost the state billions of dollars. This, of course, after the massive $32 billion fraud in unemployment benefits during the COVID years. Incredibly, the state has missed 6 straight deadlines for its annual comprehensive financial report, which puts in jeopardy our credit rating as well as federal funding. The auditor's report documents IT projects that languish for months, for years, as antiquated systems beleaguer our bureaucracy. This despite Silicon Valley being a stone's throw away. You have state entities that continue to, quote, fall short of minimum standards for information security, for cyber security, putting our state, our data, our privacy at risk. But alarmingly, it is more than just cybersecurity. It's also the security of our physical infrastructure. For instance, the auditor finds that there are 49 dams that pose, quote, an extremely high hazard to life and property. And it's getting worse. In just the last 2 years, the number of dams rated either poor or unsatisfactory has increased by 73%.
Well, there you have it, folks. Don't take my word for it. But like I was saying, the fraud, right? And Gavin Newsom is supposed to believe that he's the front runner and he's the man, right? He's the man. He knows what he's doing, the man with the plan, right? But to me, it's like the man of destruction, the destruction of California going to hell. Because this is democratic governance, right? The ones who have all the answers, that know everything. But instead, everything they touch leads to destruction. And you got to ask yourself, family, why is that? Why the hell is that? blows my mind. The party of helping the poor, the working class people, tax the rich, right? To me, when you really look past that and you really pull back the curtain, all you see is the party of tax the working class, remove jobs because the rich will leave because they have the money and resources to do so and pick up and go when they want to go, unlike the working class individuals. And also self enrich themselves to become rich while they move out the rich. It sounds like to me that the Democratic Party is the party who hates the rich until they become rich. So, out of envy, let's remove the rich from my view, even though the rich is the one that make up majority of the taxes or pay majority in taxes and create jobs and companies and so forth for the working class people to go to. But if you remove that, where do the working class people go? They suffer and they get taxed to death. You can't tax the rich if they're not there. But it seems like to me, to break this down in simple terms or in a simplistic way, you ever had like someone who is so envious of how wealthy a kid is or their friend is, but instead of asking the question of how can they get wealthy, but instead they have so much hate in their heart that they can never be wealthy or even reach that potential because they're so busy focused on the hatred of it instead of actually getting to it and working, right? And making an honest living, but working hard to get there and learning and actually embracing the value. But they're so big headed that they have all the answers that they think they're bigger than their friend. But then you ask them, why aren't you wealthy, but your friend are? You see, the wealthiest people are the greatest listeners. They didn't acquire wealth just for no reason. And I feel like the Democratic Party is that kid who is jealous of their friend, such as the rich. So they remove the rich so they can make it like the rich is the enemy while they have this whole plan behind the curtain to enrich themselves. And then when the rich moves out and the poor get battered, the working class people get battered, then they just find another reason to say, look, we're here to help you. But you took away the jobs. How are you there to help them? So I don't know. It's like to me, the Democratic Party removes the thing that they're envious of and then they want to become it, which is contradicting because you want to tax the rich and the rich are the enemies, but you are using the working class people to prop yourself up to be rich by creating these programs to give you kickbacks. And you become the only wealthiest individual in the state as part of being a public official as well. So to me, all the energy of going after the rich, making it like the rich is the problem, which they never were, to me, it just sounds like they're jealous because they aren't rich. So the easiest way to do it is to become rich, is make the working class people suffer. So they have to come to you, like since you got all the answers, and the rich is the one that's the problem. Why they get rich off the vulnerability and the suffering of poor people. So evil, so demonic, right? But don't take my word for it. I want you guys to check out another clip. All right, family. I don't know why the audio is not playing. Well, sorry about that. I don't know why the audio isn't playing, but we're going to make a quick adjustment real quick as I want to show you guys this TikTok. And that's what I'll put on the screen. But we're going to shift gears and I'll just show you guys right about now. So I want you guys to check it out.
Dollars sent to LA County over 4 years is $2.3 billion sent to LA County over 4 years is completely unaccounted for. That's $2.3 billion that could have been used to clean up this or find housing for people who live like this. or to fix this part of Venice Beach, where people own million-dollar homes but are too afraid to walk their dogs because of this. There have already been 2 indictments linked to his probe, but U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley says there are a lot more to come. I spoke with him earlier. Bill, how long has this kind of fraud been going on? I mean, the homeless issue in Southern California is a massive issue. Taxpayers have forked over tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to fix it, and people are stealing it?
It's unbelievable, and it's probably been going on for a very long time, but unfortunately no one's really looked at it until recently. Before this position, I was in the state legislature, and we would ask a lot of questions about the billions of dollars being spent every year to solve homelessness, and we can all see with our eyes and ears that it wasn't being solved, and the money wasn't going to the people who needed it most. So one of the first things I did after being appointed as the U.S. Attorney here in L.A. was to create the Homeless Fraud and Corruption Task Force. And frankly, we were starting from the bottom up, and we began brand new investigations with the IRS and the FBI, and it's already culminated in 2 separate indictments, and I can assure you that more will come.
In the 2 indictments you've announced thus far, in one case, somebody was taking this money that was meant to build homes for the homeless and spending it on things like tickets to Coachella concert, jewelry, and a Beverly Hills mansion.
It's frankly outrageous, and this goes to show when you hand out billions of dollars with little to no oversight, there are people out there that will take advantage, and that's always been our suspicion, is that there's been very little oversight or accountability to the individuals who receive this money. Most of the money goes out to nonprofits or developers who claim they're going to use the money to build housing, and what we saw in these 2 investigations, that's not where the money went, and it was used to pay one individual's American Express bill.
So how much, I mean, we're talking a massive amount of money that's been set aside to help the homeless. What percent do you think might be stolen?
We don't have that number yet. What I can tell you is just in these 2 cases represent over a $50 million loss. And that's, again, scratching the surface. We have many more investigations open that I cannot get into, but we are going to follow the money. We're going to follow every dollar, and we want to make sure the money went to its intended objective, which is to assist the homeless. And if any of it was diverted for personal use or other use that wasn't authorized, we intend to criminally prosecute those individuals. And like I said, we have multiple ongoing investigations. We have the IRS conducting the financial review. We have the FBI going out and conducting interviews. We're issuing subpoenas. We're doing search warrants. There is a lot happening that the public cannot see right now.
How did this go unnoticed for so long?
Well, to be frank, this is a problem we saw in the legislature. When you have a state like California that frankly enjoys a supermajority controlled by one political party, there's very little checks and balances in the system to hold that accountability. So when they're passing the budgets and they're dispensing billions of dollars, it does sound good and it feels good to spend $24 billion in the case of California to solve homelessness. And it was almost like that was the end of the story for the legislators and the governor. And a lot of the money was dispensed to nonprofits that have very strong political ties. And there's really, again, never been any oversight. But now you have the federal government. The election was won by the opposite party, and you have an election that has consequences. And now you have
Yeah. So you guys get the gist of it. But that's what I'm saying. It's very strange because the Democratic Party always talking about taxing the rich. They hate the very thing that they become, which is rich, off of the backs of nonprofits and these programs that never go to the objective in which they were intended to, like, for example, helping the homeless. And that pisses me off, and it's so demonic and it's so deceitful, and that's why we have to wake up and pull back the curtain and ask the real questions and not get so how can I put this, swayed or swindled just from their little feel good campaigns, right? Because you got unemployment fraud, and I'm talking 32 billion in California, yes, with a B, stolen during COVID, and they were handing out unemployment checks like Oprah handing out free cars, and you get a check, everybody gets a check. Expect some of these checks went to dead people, except some of these checks went to dead people, prisoners, and out-of-state scammers. And the worst part is they knew it, California. It was happening and still couldn't stop it. Like if I caught somebody robbing somebody else's house, instead of calling the cops, I just get them the keys or let them go in there. Let's say I'm looking after a family member house, right? I see them a robber trying to rob the house, and I just get them the keys instead of calling the cops and said, "Sure, make sure you close the door when you leave." That's what California did with your tax dollars. And don't get it twisted. This wasn't some small time scam. This was coordinated, organized. Some of these scams were being run from prisons from other countries. There were people out here using fake names, fake businesses, fake social security numbers, and it all worked because California had no system in place to check. They just said COVID relief and started cutting checks like it was monopoly money, right? And then you look at this, man, and they spent 24 billion trying to fix the homeless crisis. 24 billion. You heard the man. And that's more than the GDP of some countries. The gross that's more than the GDP, right? The gross California's gross domestic product, right? And it's mind-blowing to me because California was known as, the Hollywood, being driven by entertainment and tech and agriculture, and the way it's going to shambles is crazy, man. And you got people still sleeping in tents on sidewalks, entire blocks, looking like scenes from a zombie apocalypse. And I'm not even exaggerating. Venice Beach looking like a Call of Duty map. And they can't even tell you where the money went. Like, bro, imagine you give your cousin 100,000 to fix the car. 2 weeks later, the car still ain't running. And he pulling up in a new gold chain in some popular shoes, some Yeezys, talking about we ran into complications. That's California for you. Blowing taxpayer money and then saying, we tried. And now they've been caught red-handed and the federal government stepping in because the state refused to regulate itself. And they had to create a whole task force just to find out where the homeless money went. And what did they find? People using tax money to buy concert tickets, Beverly Hill mansions, pay off their Amex cards. Like, are you serious? Like, you can't make this stuff up, man. But this is the Democratic Party. This is the party that's so against the rich, but you are so hateful to the very thing you want to become. You just jealous because you can't do it genuinely, authentically, and you don't want to work for it. So you cheat and scam and swindle the people by being a public official who trusted you using their taxpayer money and taxpayer monies to work for the people. But instead it's going to the self-enrichment of self as a public official. And this is the whole atmosphere of the Democratic Party, right? But, right, blue state politics, right? Here's the play. The state gives y'all all this taxpayer money they call to these so-called nonprofits to handle things like feeding the homeless or build affordable housing. These nonprofits, 9 times out of 10, they're run by people who are politically connected, friends, donors, cronies. So it's basically like giving your homeboy a contract and saying, go take care of the block, but never checking if he actually did it. No oversight, no receipts, just vibes. And they love doing it this way because it looks good on paper. We spent $25 billion fighting homelessness. Sounds beautiful. Until you realize the money didn't do jack. It didn't help nobody. It just circled back into the pockets of the people running the game. And then they flip it and use it in campaigns. Like Republicans want to cut funding for the poor. Nah. Republicans want to cut the scams, not the help. There's a difference. And this is why Democrats love the nonprofit hustle. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. I hope you guys got where I'm coming from. As always, we just having a conversation. Spread that peace, love, and positivity. Get this video a big thumbs up. Like it up, like it up, like it up. And if you're new to the family, subscribe and join the family. Peace.